The bank called me and said, I don't think that's you. Your wife is here right now, with a man who looks exactly like you. I laughed and said, that's impossible. She's on a business trip. The voice paused, then said, sir, you should come in immediately. The bank called me at 11:15 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I was between meetings, sitting in my car outside the office, and something told me to pick up. Mr. Chen, the woman said. Her voice was professional but tight. Careful. I'm calling from First National Bank. I need to verify something with you. Okay, I said, already half distracted, pulling up my calendar. Are you currently at our downtown branch? I laughed. No, I'm at work. Why? There was a pause. A long one. Mr. Chen, she said slowly, I don't think that's you. What? Your wife is here right now, she continued, and I could hear her choosing each word carefully. She's requesting a large withdrawal from your joint account, but she's with a man who looks exactly like you. The world tilted. I laughed again, but it came out wrong. Hollow. That's impossible. My wife is on a business trip in Seattle. She's been there since Sunday. Silence on the other end. Sir, the woman said quietly, and I heard something in her voice that made my stomach drop. You should come in immediately. Right now. My hands went cold. I'd been married to Rachel for 7 years. We met at a marketing conference in San Diego, one of those massive hotel events where everyone's wearing lanyards and pretending the complimentary coffee is good. She was presenting on brand strategy. I was there representing my firm's tech clients. We ended up at the same networking dinner, seated next to each other by random chance, or what I thought was random chance. She was brilliant, sharp. She remembered every person's name, every company, every detail. When she laughed, people turned to look. When she spoke, rooms got quiet. 6 months later, we were engaged. A year after that, married. She worked in corporate consulting, traveling constantly. Chicago, Boston, Seattle, sometimes internationally. I worked in software development, mostly local clients. Predictable hours. We made it work. We had systems, shared calendars, check-in texts, weekend rituals. Sunday mornings, we'd make breakfast together. Nothing fancy. Eggs, toast, coffee. But it was ours. She'd left for Seattle on Sunday afternoon, kissed me goodbye at the door, rolling her small suitcase behind her. 3 days, she'd said. Back Thursday night. Love you. Love you too, I'd said. That was 2 days ago. And now someone at the bank was telling me she was downtown with a man who looked like me. I grabbed my keys and drove. My brain kept trying to rationalize it. Identity theft. A mistake. Someone else's problem. Maybe the bank teller was new, confused, mixing up accounts. But the woman's voice wouldn't let me believe that. I don't think that's you. The phrase kept looping. I hit every red light between my office and downtown. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I tried calling Rachel. Straight to voicemail. Tried again. Same thing. I texted, call me now. Nothing. First National Bank was a sleek glass building on 4th Street. I parked illegally in a loading zone and walked through the revolving doors like I was stepping into someone else's nightmare. A woman in a navy suit met me immediately. She'd been waiting. Mr. Chen, she said, extending her hand. I'm Jennifer Watts, branch manager. Thank you for coming so quickly. Her face was tight, controlled, but I could see tension in her jaw. What's going on? I asked. She glanced around the lobby, then gestured toward a hallway. Please, come with me. We walked past teller stations, past offices with frosted glass doors. She led me to a conference room at the end of the hall. The door was closed. They're in there? I asked. Yes, she said. Your wife and the individual she brought with her. Who is he? We don't know yet, she said carefully. But he presented identification in your name. He signed documents with your signature. She paused. Perfectly. My stomach dropped. She looked at me directly. Mr. Chen, when we run biometric verification for large withdrawals, the system flagged an anomaly. Facial similarity was extremely high, over 92%, but the retinal scan didn't match. That's what triggered the alert. I stared at her. How much were they trying to withdraw? I asked. $340,000. The floor disappeared. That's everything, I whispered. I know, she said. That's why we called you. She opened the door. Through the glass panel, I saw them. Rachel sat at a conference table, relaxed, laughing at something. Her hair was down. She was wearing the gray blazer I'd watched her pack on Sunday. Next to her sat a man, my exact reading glasses. The tortoise-shell frames I'd bought last year. My haircut. The fade I got every 3 weeks at the same barbershop. My watch. The silver Seiko my father gave me. My jacket. The charcoal one I'd been looking for all week. He even sat like me, leaning back slightly. One ankle crossed over the opposite knee. The door opened. Rachel's smile vanished. The man froze mid-sentence, his hand suspended over a stack of papers. What is this? I said. Rachel stood up fast. The chair scraped against the floor. You're supposed to be at work. You're supposed to be in Seattle. I shot back. The man looked at her, then at me, then back at her. His face had gone white. Who is he? I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't answer. The manager cleared her throat behind me. Sir, as I mentioned, we flagged this transaction due to biometric inconsistencies. Additionally, the offshore account they were transferring to was opened 2 weeks ago. We have protocols for this type of activity. I stepped into the room, closer. The man didn't move. Up close, it was worse. He had a small scar near his left eyebrow, same place as mine. From a childhood bike accident I'd never told anyone about except Rachel. You've been pretending to be me? I said to him. He swallowed, didn't speak. This is a misunderstanding. understanding, Rachel said, but her voice had lost its steadiness. Then explain it, I said. She looked trapped, cornered. We were just handling some financial planning. The manager slid a folder across the table toward me. These are the documents he was signing. Wire transfer authorizations, account access forms, all dated today. I opened the folder. My signature, perfect loops, exact slant. How long? I asked Rachel. She looked away. The man finally spoke. His voice was quieter than mine, softer. 6 months. 6 months. I laughed once, sharp, bitter. The sound echoed in the small room. You found someone who looks like me, I said slowly, the pieces assembling in my head. You trained him. You brought him to my bank to steal my money. Rachel's jaw tightened. It's our money. Not anymore, the manager said. She gestured to the security guard standing by the door. I hadn't even noticed him there. We've frozen all accounts pending investigation, and we've contacted the police. Rachel's face went white. The man stood up. I was just helping. Sit down, the security guard said. His hand moved to his radio. I turned back to Rachel. You didn't just cheat. You built a plan. You rehearsed it. She said nothing. I looked at the man again. Really looked. Does she know your real name, or are you just a prop? He looked at her. She looked away. That told me everything. The police arrived within 8 minutes. 2 officers. Detective Marcus Webb, a black man in his 40s with graying temples and 23 years on the force, according to his badge, and Officer Stephanie Chen, no relation, younger, taking notes on everything. Mr. Chen, Detective Webb said, extending his hand. I understand this is a difficult situation. Let's start with what you know. I told him. The bank call, the drive over, the man in my glasses. He nodded, writing in a small notebook. Then he turned to Rachel. Ma'am, can you explain your presence here today? I don't have to explain anything without a lawyer, she said. That's your right, Webb said evenly. But I should inform you that we're investigating potential fraud, conspiracy to commit identity theft, and attempted grand larceny. Those are felony charges. The color drained from her face. He turned to the man. What's your name, sir? The man hesitated. David Morse. Mr. Morse, do you have identification? He pulled out a wallet. Inside was a driver's license. My name, my birth date, my address, his photo. This is a fraudulent ID, Webb said. That's a separate felony. Do you have your real identification? Morse reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out another wallet. A real license. David Morse, 29 years old, address in Tacoma. Webb took photos of both licenses. Mr. Morse, I'm placing you under arrest for identity fraud and conspiracy to commit theft. You have the right to remain silent. Rachel stood up. Wait, this isn't what it looks like. Then what is it? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing came out. Officer Chen was examining the documents on the table, photographing each page with her phone. These signatures are remarkably accurate, she said to Webb. We'll need a forensic document examiner. Already requested, Webb said. He turned to the bank manager. Ms. Watts, I'll need copies of all surveillance footage from today and the past 6 months. Any previous visits by either of these individuals. We have that ready, she said, handing him a thumb drive. Our security team pulled it as soon as we called Mr. Chen. They took Rachel and David Morse to separate rooms for questioning. I sat in Jennifer Watts' office, drinking water I didn't want, trying to process what was happening. How did you catch it? I asked her. She sat across from me, hands folded on her desk. The retinal scanner. We implemented it last year after a series of sophisticated identity frauds. Facial recognition can be fooled with enough effort, makeup, surgery, practice. But retinal patterns are unique. When Mr. Morse's scan didn't match your file, the system locked the transaction and alerted me directly. He looked exactly like me, I said. Extremely close, she agreed. Height, build, facial structure. The glasses, the haircut, the clothing, those enhanced the resemblance. But technology doesn't lie. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Are you okay? The bank called us. My stomach flipped. They called my parents? Emergency contact protocol, Watts said. For fraud this sophisticated, we notify all parties with account access. I called my mother back. Explained as much as I could. She kept saying I knew something was wrong with her over and over, which didn't help. When I hung up, Detective Webb was standing in the doorway. Mr. Chen, I need to show you something. He led me to a small office where Officer Chen had set up a laptop. On the screen was surveillance footage from the bank. This is from 3 weeks ago, Webb said. The footage showed Rachel and David Morse entering the bank together. They approached a teller. Morse signed something. They left. What were they doing? I asked. Signature practice, Webb said. Small transaction, $50 withdrawal, testing the system. He clicked to another file. 2 weeks ago. Same thing, different teller. This time Morse wore my watch, carried my briefcase. 1 week ago. Now Morse's hair was exactly like mine. He moved like me, waited like me. They were rehearsing, I whispered. Extensively, Webb said. We found text messages on your wife's phone. Instructions, coaching. Hold the pen like this. Sign slower, smile less. He always taps his fingers twice before signing. I stared at the screen. She studied me. In detail, Webb said. He pulled up another file. Photos. Morse from various angles. Rachel had photographed him next to pictures of me, comparing features. Adjustments, marked in red. Scar needs to be higher. Glasses, temples too wide. Where did she find him? I asked. We're still investigating that, Webb said. But based on preliminary questioning, they met on a freelance platform. She hired him initially for what she claimed was a corporate training project. Paid him $5,000 up front. Promised him $50,000 after the withdrawal. Jesus. Mr. Morse claims he didn't know it was fraud at first, Webb continued. Says she told him it was a social experiment for a documentary, but the messages show he knew. He asked about legal implications multiple times. She assured him it was covered. Officer Chen looked up from the laptop. We also found a second phone in your wife's car. Burner. Entire text thread with Morse going back 7 months. 7 months, not 6. She'd lied even about that. What happens now? I asked. We continue the investigation, Webb said. Document everything. Interview witnesses. Your wife and Mr. Morse will be formally charged. Given the amount involved and the level of planning, these are serious felonies. Washington State considers theft over $5,000 grand larceny. This is $340,000, plus identity fraud, conspiracy, forgery. How long could they get? Depends on the prosecutor and their records, Webb said. But we're looking at potential prison time. Mr. Morse might cooperate for a reduced sentence. Your wife, he paused. Her role as the architect makes this worse. I went home that night to an empty house. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt real. I kept walking through rooms, looking for signs I'd missed. How had I not known? 7 months, while I was making her coffee every morning, while we were planning our anniversary trip to Vancouver, while she was training someone to replace me. I found the second phone in her car, just like Officer Chen said, a cheap Android burner. The text thread with David Morse was meticulous, clinical. Rachel, your walk is too confident. He's more hesitant. Watch the videos I sent. Morse, got it. Practicing. Rachel, the scar needs makeup. I'll bring the kit tomorrow. Morse, what if someone recognizes this isn't real? Rachel, they won't. Trust the process. There were photos. Morse practicing my signature on hotel notepads. Morse wearing my clothes, standing in front of a mirror. Side-by-side comparisons with pictures of me she'd taken without my knowledge. One message made me physically sick. Rachel, you're getting really good at being him. Sometimes I almost forget. Morse, that's the point, right? Rachel, exactly. I found her instructions document, a Google Doc titled Profile TC. TC, my initials, height, weight, eye color, distinguishing marks, my coffee order, the way I signed documents, my handwriting quirks, loops the G slightly, always underlined signatures, pauses before writing dates. She'd turned me into a manual, a character to be performed. The divorce attorney I hired was named Patricia Voss, 56 years old, gray hair pulled into a tight bun, a reputation for handling high-conflict cases. This, she said, reviewing the police reports, is one of the most clear-cut cases I've ever seen. We were in her office 3 days after the bank incident. I'd taken the week off work. Couldn't focus anyway. She's already hired someone, I said. James Kellerman. Voss nodded. I know him. He's good, but he's not a magician. Your wife orchestrated identity fraud and attempted grand larceny. That's documented by police, bank surveillance, and her own text messages. In Washington, this is community property state. But criminal conduct negates standard distribution. What does that mean? It means she tried to steal from the marriage, Voss said. The court won't reward that. You'll keep the house, the savings, your retirement accounts. She'll get nothing. She'll fight it. Let her, Voss said. Every motion she files creates more evidence of her judgment, or lack thereof. The criminal case moved faster than I expected. David Morse took a plea deal 2 weeks later, testified against Rachel in exchange for reduced charges. He got 18 months at a minimum security facility in Shelton. His lawyer, a public defender named Thomas Park, argued Morse was manipulated. My client was hired under false pretenses, Park said at Morse's sentencing. He believed he was participating in a research project. By the time he realized the scope of what was happening, he was financially dependent on Ms. Chen's payments. The judge, Linda Hartwell, 22 years on the bench, wasn't sympathetic. Mr. Morse, she said, you asked about legal implications in text messages. You knew. You participated. And while I accept that you were not the architect of this scheme, you were a willing participant. 18 months. Be grateful. It isn't more. Rachel's trial was set for November. Her attorney tried to argue she'd been under emotional distress, marital problems, mental health issues. Voss destroyed that in our divorce proceedings. Ms. Chen, she said during a deposition, you planned this for 7 months. You created false documents. You hired and trained a man to impersonate your husband. You rehearsed bank visits. Does that sound like someone acting under emotional distress? Or someone executing a calculated plan? Rachel's attorney objected. The objection was overruled. Furthermore, Voss continued, you maintained normal marital relations with Mr. Chen throughout this period. You celebrated his birthday. You planned a vacation together. You texted him loving messages while simultaneously texting Mr. Morse instructions on how to forge his signature. Explain how that reflects distress rather than deception. Rachel had no answer. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks after her criminal trial began. Judge Gregory Nakata presided. He'd reviewed everything. The police reports, the bank surveillance, the text messages, Voss's filings. This is not a typical dissolution, he said. Mrs. Chen engaged in criminal conduct targeting the marital estate. She planned to abscond with marital funds through fraud. Under Washington law, I'm awarding Mr. Chen full ownership of all marital assets, the house, the savings, the vehicles. Mrs. Chen forfeits any claim. Her attorney stood. Your Honor, my client— Sit down, Mr. Kellerman, Nakata said. I've made my ruling. He looked at Rachel directly. exactly. You betrayed your husband's trust. You betrayed the institution of marriage, and you committed multiple felonies in pursuit of financial gain. The law does not protect you here. Be grateful you're only losing your assets and not more. Later that week, Rachel was convicted on 4 counts: conspiracy to commit theft, identity fraud, forgery, and attempted wire fraud. The prosecutor, Ann Delgado, 28 years with the state attorney's office, had presented overwhelming evidence. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. At sentencing, Judge Hartwell gave Rachel 3 years probation, 200 hours community service, and a permanent felony record. You will carry this for the rest of your life, Hartwell said. Every job application, every loan, every background check, people will know what you did, and that is appropriate. Rachel stood there, smaller than I'd ever seen her. No blazer, no confidence, just someone who'd gambled and lost. I saw her twice after that. Once, outside the courthouse, talking to her lawyer. She looked up as I passed, started to say something. I kept walking. The second time was 6 months later, at a grocery store. She was in the produce section, looked thinner, tired. Our eyes met across the oranges. She opened her mouth. I turned and left. Friends asked how I didn't see it coming. I told them the truth. I trusted her, and she'd turned that trust into a script. When people ask if I'm dating, I tell them not yet. Maybe not for a while, because forgiveness isn't owed to people who practiced your replacement. I kept the house, kept the savings, kept the car, kept my name. Rachel got probation and a permanent record that follows her to every bank, every loan, every background check for the rest of her life. And I made sure everyone we knew, every mutual friend, every former colleague, every family member knew exactly why. Not out of revenge, out of protection, because the woman who could train someone to become me could train herself to become anyone. The last thing Detective Webb told me was that they'd traced Rachel's planning back even further. 8 months before she met David Morse, she'd been researching identity fraud cases, looking at what worked, what failed, what got people caught. She'd studied the game. She'd played it perfectly. She'd lost anyway. Sometimes late at night, I still think about that moment in the conference room, seeing him in my glasses, my jacket, my watch, the way he sat like me, the way she'd taught him to be me, and I wonder if there were moments when she looked at him and forgot, if the performance became real, if she loved the copy more than the original. But then I remember the texts, the calculations, the offshore account opened 2 weeks before. She didn't love either of us. She loved the plan, and in the end, the plan loved her back exactly as much as she deserved, which is to say, not at all.